Okay, the other big story probably right now in college football, the full merger or the potential full merger of the Big 12 and the Pac-12. Well, that's dead. Several reports out there that talks between the Big 12 and the Pac-12 has ended with the Big 12 saying, no thanks. We don't have any interest in a full merger. And for me, that signals that Brett Yormark probably looked at the full merger option and was like, no, I'm just going to go try and take the teams that I want from your conference. Now, whether that's 4 Pac-12 teams, 6 Pac-12 teams, we'll see. But I do think the Big 12 can't just stand with what it's got. I do think it needs to add, even if those additions, when you look at the balance sheet, don't bring more value to the league right now. I know it seems like you should only add teams if they bring more money in for you in this next media rights agreement. I understand that. But I think the Big 12 and Brett Yormark, they need to be focused clearly on the new media rights deal they're about to negotiate. But they need to understand the big picture and kind of the long-term picture. If you add Pac-12 teams now, that weakens the Pac-12. And I think down the line, destroying the Pac-12 as we know it makes the Big 12 more valuable. So it's almost addition by subtraction situation where you may not reap those benefits now, but I think we can all agree live sports is going to continue to be very, very important to television networks and streaming services. If you can kill the Pac-12 now, even though it may not seem like the smart business move now, it could have some serious benefits in the future.
Yeah, it's interesting when you think about it, because I think it's insane the way the Pac-12 is going about business. But I also understand, like, if you're the Pac-12 commissioner, are you going to negotiate your own demise? You know what I'm saying? You don't survive a Big 12 Pac-12 merger. It's in no interest for you to negotiate the destruction of what you have. So it's going to be hard to get the Pac-12 to agree to a merger where they're swallowed up by another conference. I get that. But the university presidents and athletic directors have to be looking at one another and saying, man, we better figure out a dance partner pretty quick. Because when you have Phil Knight openly cold calling everyone in college football trying to get Oregon out of the Pac-12, all it takes is someone to say, yeah, okay, we'll take Oregon and Washington or whatever. And it's dead. It's over. It's done. So you better figure out something now, because it's going to happen eventually. I think that what is it? Would you like to see the Big 12, if they picked some teams off, the Arizona schools, Utah and Colorado? Is that a good place to start?
Be awesome. That's now getting Oregon and Washington would be ideal, right?
Because seems like that's going to be it's not going to be possible.
Yeah, we'll see. But I do think it's in the best long-term interest of the Big 12 to add teams. Even if they don't bring you a ton of value now, surviving this round of realignment needs to be the main goal of the Big 12. Securing your place as one of the 3 or 4 big-time conferences, because the ACC is not going anywhere. They're locked in that TV deal, right? And now we'll see if some of those teams try to get out of that grant of rights. That would take some serious lawyering. But
I don't know. It's interesting whenever you talk about the grant of rights, because like the networks, I feel like they want to play ball too and get all of this sorted out. And it's a disaster, but I think a lot of that's just kind of up to the networks and what proposals sound okay for some of those things to dissolve.
Yeah, I don't think ESPN's going to do the ACC a solid though. They've got them locked into what now we know is a bad deal for the ACC. What would ESPN's motivation be to throw them a bone? I don't know.
No, that's true. I guess only if they thought whatever the new situation is, provides more revenue, and maybe that's not possible considering the time and the factors of the ACC deal currently.
Yeah, and then Notre Dame really that what they do still seems to be the thing that could shake everything up. And Dennis Dodd put a report out that Notre Dame would stay independent if they can get up to $75 million annually from NBC, which seems like wishful thinking because I believe I read they're bringing in 22 million annually right now. That's it's a pretty substantial difference, but NBC, in order to get Notre Dame to that type of number, remember Notre Dame's been on NBC since the early 90s. So they've, it's been a long-term relationship there that I'm sure both parties want to make work, but NBC would have to add more games that would be, games before Notre Dame's, games after Notre Dame games. And it seems like there's some indication that the Big 12 could be what they're after. And maybe the key to all of it is just timing, because Notre Dame's NBC deal up 2025. The Big 12's media rights deal is up 2025. So the timing of that could make a lot of sense, but I just don't know. How would you feel about Big 12 football and Notre Dame? Like, does that lead to a partnership between the Big 12 and Notre Dame somehow? I don't know, but it would. I think it'd be a great thing for the Big 12 to be lumped into whatever package Notre Dame would have with NBC. It seems like that would be a big positive for the Big 12.
Well, at a minimum, it's a big positive for them that they're at least part of that negotiation or part of that talk, right?
Right.
Whenever you've got other options, it's ultimately going to make the deal that you get from whoever it might be, ESPN, Fox, whatever. It's going to make it better. The bidding war has to start. And so Notre Dame, they've been locked into that 22 million number for a long time, right? So
yeah, I think it was actually, I believe I read it was 15 and then the contract's backloaded. So now they're getting 22.
I think they're going to break the bank.
I do too. Massive brand.
I don't think 75 million. When Vanderbilt's going to get 75 million, being locked in with the SEC.
But remember, they value, and their alumni value them being independent a lot.
No,
so
I'm just saying though that like with some of these other schools, and I know they're tied into these conferences, but right, that means that the Alabamas, Georgias of the SEC are worth hundreds of millions, and the Vanderbilts, the lower rung teams are worth, like, whenever they are meeting at the 75, like, that tells you that there's a lot of wiggle room on the top end of that number. And that's why I think 75 million is, I don't think it's outlandish at all for Notre Dame.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, they are, I feel like they're the key domino in whatever is about to happen next here.
And the other part is like SEC, Big 10, Big 12. Everyone is salivating at adding Notre Dame to their conference. So the fact that they've also got the card that, yeah, well, we may not stay independent with you, like, that's also something that they've got as a negotiating tool as well. It's like, we could get, 75, 80 million over here pretty easy and, just be a guaranteed deal. So they've got a lot of options. So yeah, good place to be in.
Yeah, there's no doubt